Welcome back to The Haven, the Storyforge Haven channel, crafting tales for you to enjoy. We're passionate about sharing stories, from sci-fi epics to fantasy adventures, to spark your imagination. Today, dive into a dark fantasy adventure with Claw of Courage, the Kitten War. Join our continued journey with a subscribe and let us know your favorite scene or past story in the comments. Thank you for listening and enjoy Claws of Courage, the Kitten War.
Chapter 1: The Raven's Raid. Sunlight sliced through the weathered planks of the old barn, casting golden stripes across the hay-strewn floor. Abby, a fluffy black and white kitten with yellow eyes like twin moons, batted at a stray dust mote, his tail flicking with glee. The air smelled of warm straw and the faint musk of his family. His mother's soft purrs, his siblings' playful squeaks, and the distant grumble of his father, who was nosing a pile of spilled grain into order. The barn was a haven, a world of scampering games and cozy naps, nestled at the edge of a sprawling forest where the mountain loomed like a sleeping giant. "Abby!" his father's voice rumbled, a tabby growl from across the barn. "Stop chasing shadows and help with these chores. The hay won't stack itself." Abby froze mid-pounce, one paw raised, and flicked his ears back. "Aw, Dad, I'll stack it when the mice start dancing jigs," he chirped, darting behind a towering bale with a mischievous grin. His father's exasperated huff followed, but Abby was already plotting his next move, whiskers twitching with delight. He crouched low, belly brushing the dusty floor, his eyes locked on the gap between bales where anyone might pass. The game was simple: pounce first, ask questions later. His siblings scampered nearby, tumbling over each other in a flurry of fur, while his mother's tail swished lazily from a sunny perch atop a broken crate. The barn hummed with life, a perfect morning, until the air shifted. A shadow flickered across the sunlight's beams, too swift to be a cloud. Then another. Abby's ears pricked, his playful grin faltering. A harsh caw split the air, followed by a chorus of shrieks, his family's voices twisted with panic. The barn erupted into chaos. Hisses and yowls clashed with a cacophony of flapping wings and guttural caws. Abby's heart thudded as he peeked from behind the bale, his claws sinking into the hay. Ravens, dozens of them, their black feathers gleaming like oil, swooped through the barn's rafters, their beaks snapped, eyes glinting with cruel intent. At their center, a massive raven perched on a beam, its feathers ruffled like a dark crown, one eye scarred and milky white. The Raven King. Its head tilted, surveying the chaos with a chilling calm as Abby's family fought and fled. His mother swiped at a diving bird, her claws drawing blood, but two more pinned her down. His father roared, leaping at a raven, only to be overwhelmed by a flurry of wings. Abby's siblings scattered, their tiny cries swallowed by the din. Terror rooted Abby to the spot. He burrowed deeper into the hay, his breath shallow, the bale's scratchy fibers muffling the sounds of his world collapsing. The Raven King's caw rang out, sharp and commanding, and the flock surged, dragging cats and kittens toward the barn's open doors. Then, silence. An eerie, hollow quiet, broken only by the soft rustle of settling feathers and the distant hoot of an owl high in the rafters. Abby waited, trembling, until the silence stretched unbearable. He crept out, his paws silent on the straw-littered floor. The barn was a graveyard of feathers, black and iridescent, scattered like fallen stars. Sunlight had given way to the bruised glow of sunset, painting the walls in hues of blood and amber. Abby's family was gone. His mother's crate was empty, his father's grain pile abandoned. A sob caught in his throat and he sank to the floor, tears matting his fur. The owl hooted again, its amber eyes glinting from the shadows, but it offered no comfort, only a silent watch. Stumbling to the barn's threshold, Abby's gaze caught on a trail of feathers leading into the forest, toward the mountain's jagged silhouette. His grief hardened into something sharp, a claw in his chest. He would find them. He would bring them back. A rustle broke his thoughts. From the tall grass outside, a gray-orange kitten pounced on a stray raven feather, rolling onto his back with a gleeful yowl. His hind legs kicked furiously, shredding the feather as if it were a mortal enemy. Abby blinked, his tears pausing. "Muffin!" he croaked. Muffin sprang up, his green eyes wide with excitement, bits of feather stuck to his whiskers. "Abby, did you see all those birds?" he squeaked, bouncing on his paws. They were all flap, 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 and then whoosh. Where'd everybody go? Abby's throat tightened, tears spilling anew. "They're gone, Muffin. The ravens took them." His voice broke, and he sank back, the weight of it crushing him. Muffin's bouncing stopped. He tilted his head, then patted closer, nudging Abby's shoulder with a soft headbutt. "Hey, don't cry. We'll find 'em, right? You're Abby. You're the best at hide and seek." Abby looked up, the mountain looming in the distance, its peak shrouded in mist. The trail of feathers pointed the way, a taunting path through the darkening forest. He wiped his eyes with a paw, his jaw setting. "Yeah," he said, voice trembling but firm. "I'm going to get them back. All of them." Muffin's ears perked, his tail swishing like a metronome. "Can I come?" he asked, tilting his head with innocent curiosity. "I'm real good at chasing stuff." Abby managed a small, shaky smile. The owl hooted once more, its shadow shifting in the rafters, and Abby felt a chill, whether from the bird's gaze or the journey ahead, he couldn't say. But he stood, claws flexing, and faced the forest. "Let's go, Muffin," he said. "We've got a family to save." Chapter 2. Into the Woods. The forest loomed before Abby and Muffin, a tangle of towering oaks and pines that stretched toward the mountain's misty peak. Sunlight dappled the ground, filtering through a canopy of leaves that rustled with the chatter of unseen creatures. The air carried the sharp scent of pine needles and damp earth, laced with the faint sweetness of wildflowers. Abby's paws sank into the soft moss, his yellow eyes wide as he took in the vastness of the world beyond the barn. Each tree seemed a giant, their gnarled roots twisting like ancient claws. Muffin bounced beside him, his gray-orange fur fluffed with excitement, tail flicking at every passing insect. "Wow, Abby, look at that!" Muffin squealed, darting after a shiny black beetle scuttling across a fallen log. His claws scrabbled as he clambered up a tree, chasing the beetle onto a high branch. "I'm gonna get it!" "Muffin, stop!" Abby hissed, his heart lurching. "You're gonna fall. Get down!" He paced below, ears twitching at the creak of the branch under Muffin's weight. Muffin, oblivious, swatted at the beetle, now perched at the branch's tip. "Uh-oh," he mewed, peering down with wide green eyes. "What do I do?" Before Abby could answer, a butterfly fluttered past, its wings a blur of blue. Muffin's head whipped around, and he lunged, paws flailing. The branch wobbled, and with a yowl he plummeted, landing in a puff of leaves right in front of Abby. Abby froze, heart pounding, expecting a wail of pain. Instead, Muffin blinked up at him, a leaf stuck to his nose. "Hi, Abby," he chirped, shaking himself off as if nothing had happened. Abby let out a shaky laugh, relief flooding him. "You're going to give me a heart attack, you furball." He nudged Muffin, who grinned and flicked the leaf away with a paw. A rustle in the bushes made Abby's fur bristle. He crouched, claws unsheathing, but a tiny kitten emerged, no bigger than a pine cone, with smoky gray fur and blue eyes like twin pools. Did you just fly?" The kitten stammered, staring at Muffin with awe. Abby's ears flicked back, and he exchanged a glance with Muffin, who was already batting at another leaf. "Fly? Nah, he just falls with style," Abby said, a grin tugging at his whiskers. "I'm Abby. This is Muffin. Who are you?" "Ash," the kitten squeaked, stepping closer. "I live here, in the forest." "You're not from around here, are you?" Before Abby could answer, Ash darted to a cluster of ferns and mewed softly. The forest seemed to answer. A chorus of tiny meows echoed, and one by one about 25 kittens crept from hiding spots, under roots, behind rocks, in hollow logs. Their fur was a patchwork of colors, tabby, white, tortoiseshell, and their eyes glinted with wariness. Ash led Abby and Muffin down a narrow path to a tiny valley where a stream gurgled over smooth pebbles, its surface catching the sunlight like a mirror. "We hide here," Ash said, his voice small but steady. "From the ravens. They take kittens, whole families. Nobody fights them." Abby's chest tightened, the memory of the barn's feathers flashing in his mind. "I'm going to fight them," he said, his voice firm. "They took my family. I'm getting them back, and I'll stop the ravens for good." The kittens murmured, some with wide eyes, others with skeptical flicks of their tails. A black-furred kitten with yellow eyes, Cole, stepped forward, his posture stiff. "Stop the ravens? You're just one kitten. And him?" He jerked his head toward Muffin, who was now pawing at his own reflection in the stream. "He's no warrior." "Hey," Muffin yowled, splashing water as he swatted the stream. "I'm a great warrior. Watch me fight this shiny me." He pounced, sending droplets flying, and the other kittens snickered. Ash piped up, his tiny voice trembling. "I saw him fly. Well, sort of. And Abby's brave. I believe him." A few kittens scoffed, one muttering, "Runt's dreaming again." Ash's ears drooped, but he scampered to a pile of leaves, dragging a stick back to offer Cole. "For your nest," he said hopefully. Cole swatted the stick away. "Keep your twigs, Runt. We don't need your help." Ash flinched and Abby's tail lashed, but before he could speak, Cole turned to the group. "I'll talk to them," he said, his tone smooth but sharp. "Maybe some will listen to your crazy plan." Abby nodded, though unease prickled his fur. He glanced at Muffin, now chasing a ripple in the stream, and sighed. The valley felt alive, the stream's babble mixing with the hum of insects and the distant call of a bird. But as night fell, Abby's gaze drifted upward, catching a shadow in the trees. The owl from the barn perched on a high branch, its amber eyes fixed on him unblinking. A chill ran through Abby's spine. Was it watching to help? Or waiting to hunt? He curled up beside the stream, Ash settling nearby with a tiny yawn, and tried to sleep, the owl's gaze heavy on his fur. Chapter 3. The Raven Ambush. Dawn barely touched the forest, a faint gray light seeping through the canopy, when a sharp hoot jolted Abby awake. His fur bristled, heart racing as he scanned the valley. The stream gurgled softly, and the other kittens stirred, their sleepy murmurs filling the air. Above, a shadow flitted across the ground, too swift, too deliberate. Abby's eyes darted to the trees, catching glimpses of dark shapes slinking onto branches, their feathers glinting like polished knives. "Ravens! Muffin, wake up!" Abby hissed, nudging the gray-orange kitten who was sprawled on his back, paws twitching in a dream chase. Muffin blinked, yawning, but before he could speak, a raven dove, its beak aimed at a sleeping tortoiseshell kitten nearby. Abby's instincts kicked in. With a yowl, he leaped, claws slashing the air, catching the raven's wing. The bird screeched, tumbling to the ground, and Abby landed on it, his tiny claws sinking deep as he shouted, "Ravens, fight!" The valley exploded into chaos. Kittens sprang from their nests, hisses and yowls mingling with the raven's harsh caws. To Abby's shock, the kittens didn't flee. They fought. 4 kittens swarmed a single raven, dragging it down with coordinated leaps, their claws tearing feathers like black confetti. Cole's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. "Flank them! Use the rocks!" He darted between 2 ravens, his black fur a blur, claws raking one bird's side. Abby threw himself into the fray, tackling a raven mid-dive, its beak snapping inches from his ear. He rolled, pinning it, his heart pounding with fury and fear. Nearby, Muffin stood over a fallen raven, its body limp, staring at it with wide green eyes. He tapped its head with a paw, then again, as if expecting it to move. Abby? Is it napping?" he mewed, tilting his head. "Focus, Muffin!" Abby yowled, dodging another raven's talons. From the corner of his eye, he saw Ash, the tiny gray runt, darting through the chaos. Ash dragged a stick to a struggling kitten, who used it to jab a raven's wing, then pulled a limping tabby to safety behind a rock. "Ash, keep it up!" Abby called, his voice hoarse but proud. The ravens, outnumbered and unprepared for the kitten's ferocity, faltered. The last bird, a sleek creature with a notched beak, was cornered by a ring of hissing kittens, their tails lashing like a storm. Abby leaped forward, claws out. "How did you find us?" he demanded, his voice trembling with rage. The raven's eyes glinted, and it let out a mocking caw, wings flapping as it rose. "You think you can hide, little claws?" it sneered. The kittens lunged, but their paws swiped empty air, the raven climbing too high to reach. A shadow plummeted from above. The owl from the barn crashed down, its talons snaring the raven mid-flight. The bird's caw cut off with a sickening snap as the owl's claws tightened, ending its life. The kittens froze, backing away in a mix of awe and terror, their eyes locked on the owl's unblinking amber gaze. Ash, creeping forward with a stick clutched in his jaws, froze when the owl's head swiveled 180 degrees. "No," it said, its voice a low rasp, and Ash scampered back, tail tucked. The owl glided to Abby, dropping the raven's body at his paws. "It's been a long time since I've seen anyone fight the ravens," it said, its voice like wind through dry leaves. Abby's fur prickled, but he stood tall, meeting its gaze. "We're going to save our families," he said, "and end the ravens." The owl's eyes narrowed, studying him. "Brave words, little one. But the ravens are not the only danger in the sky. Sometimes the danger is the sky, be aware." It spread its wings, the air stirring with the scent of feathers and pine. "I'll be watching." With a powerful beat, it soared into the dawn, leaving the kittens in stunned silence. The valley buzzed with newfound energy. Kittens pounced on scattered raven feathers, batting them like toys, while others sniffed the fallen birds, some daring to nibble. Ash scampered in circles, a feather stuck to his back paw, yowling as he tried to shake it off. The group's mood shifted, whispers turning to murmurs of resolve. "I'm with Abby," a white kitten declared, her tail high. Others nodded, their eyes glinting with determination. Cole approached, his yellow eyes wary but steady. "They're listening now," he said to Abby, his voice low. "I'll follow you. For now." Abby nodded, sensing the tension in Cole's words, but grateful for the support. As the kittens gathered, their fur streaked with dirt and feathers, Abby looked to the mountain, its peak shrouded in mist. The trail of feathers from the barn led there, and now, with a small army at his back, he felt a spark of hope. "Let's move," he mewed, his voice firm. The kittens fell in behind him, their paws crunching on leaves, ready to face the forest's depths. High above, the owl's shadow circled, a silent guardian, or a warning. Chapter 4. The Journey Continues. The forest deepened as Abby led his ragtag army onward, the mountain's shadow growing sharper against the sky. The trees towered thicker here, their bark rough and moss-draped, filtering sunlight into a patchwork of gold and green. The air hummed with the buzz of insects and the distant trill of a thrush, but a faint metallic tang lingered, like a storm brewing far off. Abby's tail flicked, his yellow eyes scanning for threats, while the kittens chattered and stumbled behind him, their newfound courage tempered by the forest's vastness. Cole broke off with a group of 5 kittens, their paws silent as they vanished into the underbrush to hunt. Ash, the tiny gray runt, scampered forward, dragging a leaf dripping with dew. "For you, Cole," he mewed, But Cole's yellow eyes flashed, and he swatted the leaf away without a word, disappearing with his hunters. Ash's ears drooped, but he scurried to Abby's side, offering a berry clutched in his jaws. "For you, Abby," he said softly. "Thanks, Ash," Abby said, nudging the berry with his nose. "You're doing great." Ash's blue eyes brightened, and he darted off to fetch more, ignoring the snickers from a pair of tabby kittens nearby. Abby's tail lashed, but he held his tongue, focusing on the path ahead. A sudden yowl broke his thoughts. Muffin, chasing a darting grasshopper, leaped high and vanished into a bush with a thud. The kittens froze, then crowded around a deep hole hidden by the foliage, its edges crumbling into darkness. "Muffin!" Abby called, peering down, his heart racing. "You okay?" Muffin's voice echoed up, cheerful as ever. "It's cozy down here. Kinda dark, though." The kittens argued, some suggesting vines, others a risky jump. Ash, undeterred, began dragging vines from a nearby tree, his tiny frame straining. "We can make a rope," he squeaked. They got to work tying the vines, a hurried pace as other kittens jumped onto the old growth trees to pull down more vines. With the weaving complete, Abby ran to the hole. Lowering the rope, he yells to Muffin, "Let me know when you have the rope." From behind, Muffin mumbles with a full mouth, "I have the rope, Abby." Everyone stops, staring at Muffin standing with them, holding the rope in his mouth. The kittens groaned, one muttering, "Why didn't you just say you could climb?" Muffin blinked, then pounced on the grasshopper again, missing it entirely. As Cole's group returned, their jaws heavy with mice and a small squirrel, the kittens set up camp near a cluster of ferns. Ash darted about, piling tiny twigs for a fire, only to be mocked by a white kitten. "That's barely kindling, runt," she sneered, kicking his pile. Abby's fur bristled, but he caught sight of the western sky. Dark, churning clouds rolling in, heavy with the scent of rain. "Build your shelter strong," he called. "Storm's coming." Cole, finishing his own shelter, snapped at Ash when the runt offered leaves for his roof. "Get lost," Cole growled, his tail lashing. Ash shrank back, but Abby stepped in, his voice calm but firm. "Ash, help me with mine." They worked together, weaving branches and leaves into a sturdy dome. The runt's small paws, surprisingly deft. "You're stronger than they think," Abby whispered, nudging Ash's shoulder. "Don't let them get to you." Ash's eyes gleamed, and he nodded, tucking a final leaf into place. "I just want to help," he murmured, his voice barely audible over the rising wind. Night fell, and the forest grew restless. Leaves whipped through the air, torn by gusts that howled through the trees. The kittens huddled in their shelters, the scent of wet earth mingling with the sharp tang of ozone. Abby curled up beside Ash. Muffin sprawled nearby, already snoring despite the storm's approach. Through a gap in the shelter, Abby glimpsed the owl perched high on a branch, its silhouette stark against the flickering sky. Its amber eyes met his, unblinking, and Abby shivered, pulling Ash closer. The forest was alive with secrets, and the storm was only the beginning. Chapter 5. The Storm and Loss. The storm broke over the forest like a beast unleashed, its roar drowning out all else. Wind howled, clawing at the kittens' shelters, while rain lashed down in sheets, turning the ground to mud. Lightning cracked, illuminating the trembling trees, their branches swaying like frantic tails. Inside Abby's shelter, the air was thick with the scent of wet fur and fear. Ash darted about, plugging leaks with leaves, his gray fur soaked and clinging to his tiny frame. Muffin, oblivious, stood in a corner, swatting at water droplets dripping from the roof, his tongue flicking out to catch them. "Tasty rain," he mewed, earning a groan from Abby. No kittens slept. The storm's fury kept them huddled, eyes wide as thunder shook the earth. Abby's ears twitched at every sound, his heart heavy with the weight of leading his makeshift army. Ash curled beside him, shivering, and Abby nudged him gently. "We'll be okay," he whispered, though the words felt hollow against the storm's rage. A deafening snap cut through the wind, followed by a crash and a chorus of screams. Abby bolted to the shelter's entrance, peering into the dark. Lightning flashed, revealing a massive branch pinning a nearby shelter, its sticks and leaves splintered. Kittens wailed from within, their cries sharp with panic. "Stay here!" Abby yowled to Ash and Muffin, then plunged into the storm, rain stinging his eyes. The wind tore at his fur as he reached the wrecked shelter, the screams louder now, muffled by debris. He clawed at the tangled branches, his paws slipping in the mud. Another flash lit the scene, and Abby's heart leaped. Ash was atop the shelter, his tiny teeth tugging at a stick, bending it upward. "Ash, be careful!" Abby shouted, his voice lost in the gale. Abby leaped up beside him, grabbing another stick in his jaws. Together they pulled, muscles straining, until the sticks parted, creating a narrow gap. A terrified kitten's face peered up, eyes wide. "Push!" Abby yowled through the stick. He and Ash locked paws, leaning against each other for leverage, and shoved. The gap widened, and 3 kittens scrambled out, darting to nearby shelters. Ash leaned down, screaming, "Anyone else?" His voice cracked with effort. Abby nudged him. "Get to safety, Ash. Now!" But Ash shook his head, scanning the wreckage until a weak mew confirmed no one remained. Lightning flashed again, and Abby's ears pinned back as a low rumble vibrated through his paws. Not thunder, but something worse. The kittens froze, eyes scanning the forest. In the next flash, a wall of mud and debris surged down the hillside, uprooting trees and swallowing a shelter whole. Abby's heart stopped. "Run!" he screamed. But Ash was already moving, vine rope from the earlier rescue clutched in his jaws. "Ash, stop!" Abby yowled, but the runt ignored him, leaping onto a log in the mudslide's path. Abby sprinted after him, grabbing the rope's other end and looping it around a sturdy tree. Lightning revealed Ash balancing on debris, guiding 4 trapped kittens up the rope, their paws slipping in the muck. Abby pulled, muscles burning, as the kittens scrambled to safety. "That's all of them!" one gasped, collapsing beside Abby. "Where's Ash?" Abby's gaze darted to the mudslide, his heart pounding. Each lightning flash showed only churning mud and broken branches. "Ash!" he screamed, his voice raw. Abby sat there at the mud edge, the rain beating against his unwavering fur as he looked for Ash with each lightning strike. The kittens in their shelters, watching Abby stand vanguard through the night. The storm began to ease, rain softening to a drizzle, and dawn's gray light crept through the trees. Abby tested the ground, then followed the rope's path, dread coiling in his gut, Muffin following behind, quiet and tail low. At the mudslide's edge, he found the rope's end, frayed and buried. His claws dug frantically, flinging mud and twigs, until a small, gray paw emerged. "No," Abby whispered, digging faster, tears mixing with the rain. He uncovered Ash's body, still and cold, half buried in the wreckage of a shelter. A sob tore from Abby's throat, and he pressed his face to Ash's fur, weeping softly. A scream erupted from his chest, a kitten's roar at the sky. A loud snap made him freeze. Above, on a rocky outcrop, stood a mountain lion, its golden fur glowing in the sunrise, eyes like burning coals. Abby's grief turned to fear, his body rigid as the lion descended, its massive paws silent on the mud. It stopped before Ash's body, gazing down. "Bravery!" the lion rumbled, its voice thunder-soft. It lifted Ash gently, placing him on a bed of leaves, arranging his body as if sleeping. "I witnessed more bravery in this little one than in giants. I'm sorry I couldn't help." It turned to Abby, who trembled but held its gaze. "You're the ones the owl spoke of, warring with the ravens?" Abby nodded, tears streaming. "We're going to save our families." The lion's eyes softened, It plucked a claw from Ash's paw, handing it to Abby. Never forget your friend. Honor repays bravery. Abby clutched the claw, its weight heavy in his paw. Can you help us? He asked, voice breaking. My fight is with the eagles, the lion said, shaking its head. It turned, vanishing into the forest, leaving Abby alone with Ash. Muffin approached quietly as Abby removed the claws from Ash. With each one he pressed a paw to Ash's head, tears falling. Muffin came with a leaf, curled from the rain, and they tucked it over him like a blanket. With a final, shuddering breath, Abby turned back to camp, the claw clutched tight, his face hardening with resolve. The ravens would pay. Chapter 6. Tensions and Tributes. The forest was a sodden ruin as Abby and Muffin trudged back to camp, the dawnlight pale and cold. Ash's claw, sharp and heavy, pressed against Abby's paw, each step stirring the ache of loss. The air smelled of wet earth and torn leaves, the storm's aftermath strewn across the path, splintered branches, scattered petals, and mud that clung to their fur. Muffin bounced beside him, oblivious, his gray-orange tail flicking as he swatted a leaf skittering in the breeze. Look, Abby. It's running away, he mewed, pouncing and missing spectacularly. Abby barely heard him, his yellow eyes fixed on the horizon where the mountain loomed, its peak shrouded in mist. As they reached the camp's edge, nestled in a clearing of trampled ferns, Abby froze. Cole stood atop a moss-slicked rock, his black fur stark against the gray dawn, his voice sharp as he addressed the huddled kittens. Abby brought us into madness, he yowled, tail lashing. Look around. The destruction, the wounded, the risk. Why fight the ravens and die when we can find a place to hide and live? The kittens whispered, some nodding, others glancing nervously at the storm-ravaged valley, their shelters sagging under the weight of soaked leaves. Abby stepped from the trees, his fur bristling, Ash's claw clutched tighter. Muffin, distracted, batted his leaf into a puddle, sending a spray of water. The kittens turned, their eyes locking on Abby, who stood trembling, tears matting his black and white fur. Ash is gone, he said, his voice cracking like a dry twig. Gasps rippled through the group, ears drooping, tails stilling. A tortoiseshell kitten whimpered, and even the snickering tabbies fell silent. Cole's yellow eyes gleamed, a smirk curling his lips. See? Death, he shouted, leaping to the rock's edge. Abby will only bring us death. Fury ignited in Abby's chest, burning through his grief. With a kitten's roar, he charged, scrambling onto the rock. Cole reared up and they faced off, balanced on hind legs, eyes squeezed shut in a comical flurry of flailing paws, claws swiping wildly. The kittens yowled, some cheering, others hissing, their voices a chaotic chorus. Get him, Abby! A white kitten squeaked, while another muttered, Cole's right, this is crazy. The brawl teetered on absurdity until a mighty gust swept the clearing, silencing the din. The owl crashed onto the rock, its wings a storm of gray feathers, sending Abby and Cole tumbling in opposite directions. Abby landed in a muddy patch, spluttering, while Cole skidded into a fern, hissing. The kittens froze, their eyes wide with terror, as the owl's amber gaze swept the camp, its talons clicking on the stone. It tossed a pellet of bones and raven feathers at Abby's paws, the quills glinting darkly among the remains. You must watch for spies, it rasped, its voice like wind through bare branches. I caught this one before the storm. The owl glided down, landing before Abby, who stood rigid as the kittens took a fearful step back. Leaning close, its beak nearly brushing his ear, it whispered, I am sorry for your loss. Its talons plucked Ash's claw from Abby's paw, and it moved to a nearby vine, slicing it into thin strips with precise snaps. With deft movements, it wove 10 necklaces, each threaded with a claw from Ash's body, their surfaces catching the dawn's faint glow like tiny stars. Come, it said, holding the necklaces aloft. A tabby kitten beside it squeaked, Who? and the owl's wing flicked, shoving the kitten's face into the mud with a squelch. The group stifled gasps, a few tails twitching with nervous amusement. Abby approached, bowing his head, and the owl draped a necklace around his neck, the claw glinting against his fur. "Wear it with honor," it murmured. The owl's gaze swept the camp, calling a white kitten next. She stepped forward, trembling, and received her necklace, her eyes wide with awe. One by one, kittens were summoned, each bowing as a claw was placed around their necks. The owl's eyes landed on Muffin, who was rolling on his back, front paws clutching his tail as he nibbled it with gusto. "Muffin!" it called, twice, then 3 times, until Muffin bounced over. Grinning, bits of dirt stuck to his whiskers. As the owl lowered the necklace, Muffin's jaws opened for a chomp, his eyes gleaming with mischief. "No!" the kittens screamed in unison, their yowls echoing. Muffin froze, blinking, and the owl slipped the necklace on, muttering, "Foolish kit." Cole sauntered forward, head lowered expectantly, his smirk returning. The owl's eyes narrowed, and with a powerful flap of its wings, it sent Cole sprawling into the mud. Still clutching the final necklace, it launched into the sky, vanishing into the trees. Abby looked around, realizing the necklace wearers were those Ash had saved, his bravery binding them together. "Gather what you can," he mewed, his voice steady despite the ache in his chest. "We're moving out." The necklace-wearing kittens took charge, guiding the others, their claws gleaming with purpose as they packed gear and patched shelters. Noticing Cole's absence, Abby slipped into the woods, hoping to mend the rift. "Cole?" he called, his voice soft but firm. A shadow loomed instead, the owl perched on a low branch, its feathers blending with the bark. "Little one," it rasped, "take your group to the hill with orange flowers and look for the twisted oak." Before Abby could ask more, it spread its wings and flew off, a stray feather drifting down. Back at camp, Abby rallied the kittens, their fur streaked with mud and determination. He called 3 scouts, a wiry tabby, and 2 sleek blacks, and instructed them to find the hill of orange flowers. They darted off, tails high. As the group prepared to depart, Muffin vanished, chasing a dragonfly's shimmer through the trees. Night fell, heavy with the scent of damp moss and the occasional chilling caw of a distant raven. The kittens huddled, nerves frayed, their eyes darting to the shadows. The scouts returned, tails low, reporting no sign of the hill. But Muffin bounded into camp, a dragonfly wing stuck to his whiskers, orange petals tangled in his gray-orange fur. "Look, Abby, I matched the flowers," he chirped, prancing proudly. Abby's ears pricked. "Where'd you get those, Muffin?" Muffin tilted his head, thinking hard. "There was this hill, all orangey and pretty with a twisty tree. I chased the dragonfly there." Abby's heart leaped. "That's it," he said, turning to the group. "We go at dawn. Rest now." The kittens settled into their shelters, the air thick with anticipation. Abby curled up, the claw necklace heavy against his chest, his gaze fixed on the stars through a gap in the trees. Muffin flopped beside him, muttering about shiny bugs. The twisted oak waited, a beacon of hope or danger. Abby's claws flexed, Ash's sacrifice fueling his resolve. The ravens would face them soon, and he would be ready. Chapter 7. The Old Warrior's Tale. Abby's fur puffed out, his yellow eyes locked on the stranger blocking his path, claws gleaming in the dawn's pale light. The hill of orange flowers stretched around them, vibrant petals swaying in the breeze, their sweet scent mingling with the damp earth of the forest's edge. Behind the stranger loomed the twisted oak, its gnarled branches curling like a claw against the sky. Roots knotted into the soil. The kitten army charged up, their paws crunching on petals, forming a bristling line beside Abby. Hisses filled the air, sharp and defiant, as they faced the old cat. His brown and black fur was scarred, a jagged line slashing across his face, and his armor, dented plates strapped to his shoulders and chest, clinked with each breath. A helmet, etched with faint claw marks, sat heavy on his head. Abby's tail lashed, his heart pounding. "Who are you?" he growled, claws unsheathing. The kittens echoed his hiss, their tiny bodies taut with defiance. Muffin, oblivious, crouched a few paces away, butt wiggling as he eyed a particularly bold, orange flower swaying in the breeze. The old cat blinked slowly, his amber eyes calm, then blinked again. He reached to his neck, pulling out a necklace, the final one from the owl, threaded with Ash's claw, glinting like a shard of moonlight. Abby stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Explain this. You're not one of us? You didn't know Ash?" The old cat's lips curled into a faint, weathered smile. "I am one of you, little warrior. You quest to kill the ravens and free your families. The owl told me you're the army I've been waiting for." His voice was gravelly, like stones shifting in a stream. The kittens murmured, tails flicking in confusion. Muffin's butt wiggled harder, his green eyes locked on the flower, oblivious to the tension. Abby's ears twitched. "What do you know of the ravens? How can you help us?" The old cat lay down, his armor settling with a heavy clank, his scarred face solemn. 10 years ago, I fought in a war against the ravens. We were fierce, drove them from the trees, chased them up the hills. No cat would taste their cruelty again, or so we thought, as we pushed them into the caves. His voice darkened, eyes glinting with old pain. Abby clutched the claw necklace around his neck, its weight grounding him. "Then why do they torment us now?" he demanded. "Betrayal," the old cat growled, his tail thumping the ground, sending a puff of dust into the air. The kittens gasped, their eyes wide. "The Raven King is no raven. He's my brother." Abby's jaw dropped, his whiskers trembling as the old cat continued. "In that final battle, he caused a landslide, ensuring our defeat. Now he directs the ravens, tells them when to strike, who to cull, so cats can't rise again." Abby's voice wavered, barely a whisper. "But why?" "For treats," the old cat spat, his eyes blazing. "Fish from the rivers, mice, catnip from the northern peaks. Even his favorite ball, when it rolls into a crevice he can't reach. For these, he betrays us." The kitten's gasps turned to murmurs of disbelief, a few tails lashing in anger. The old cat rose, padding to the twisted oak. "I'm Foofball. You're Abby, yes?" He twisted a branch, and with a low groan, a hole yawned open between the tree's roots, revealing a dark tunnel, its air cool and heavy with the scent of stone and metal. "Come, all of you," Foofball mumbled, darting inside, his armor clinking. The kittens hesitated, exchanging wide-eyed glances, but Abby stepped forward, his claw necklace glinting. One by one they followed, their paws echoing in the tunnel. Muffin lingered, still wiggling at the flower, until a tabby kitten nudged him with a sigh. "Come on, Furball," she muttered, and Muffin bounced after her, yowling about sneaky flowers. The tunnel opened into a vast cavern, lit by shafts of sunlight piercing cracks in the ceiling. Armor gleamed on every surface, helmets stacked on racks, chest plates piled in heaps, claw guards scattered like treasures in a dragon's lair. The kittens gasped, their eyes sparkling as they darted forward, the air filled with the clink of metal and excited mews. "The ravens peck eyes," Foofball boomed, leaping onto a rock at the cavern's center. "Find a helmet first, then arm yourselves." The kittens swarmed the piles, trading gear with gleeful chaos. A white kitten tugged a spiked helmet onto her head, grinning as it wobbled. Two tabbies helped each other strap on chest plates, giggling as they fumbled the ties. Abby scanned the cavern, his gaze catching a glint from a small hole in the back wall, a golden crown, studded with jewels, glowing faintly in the dim light. He stepped toward it, curiosity tugging, but Foofball loomed in his path, eyes stern. "Nothing there for you, Abby. Get your armor." Abby nodded, respecting the old cat's command, and chose a lightweight chest plate and a helmet with a single sharp spike. The kittens transformed, their confidence swelling as they pranced in horned helmets and tested claw guards with playful swipes. A cheer erupted as Foofball approached, his armor a greenish steel, its helmet shaped like a dragon's head, scales and spikes glinting in the cavern's light. Each step thundered, his tail armor ending in wicked spikes. The kittens fell silent, awestruck, until a tiny kitten yowled, "He's a dragon!" Cheers followed, paws raised high. Foofball turned to Abby, handing him a segmented tail guard, its tip sharp as a needle. "Do you know the ways of the scorpion?" he asked, his voice low. Abby tilted his head, strapping it on, the weight strange but powerful. "What's a scorpion?" Foofball sighed, his scarred face twitching. "You've seen a snake strike? You mean how they slowly swallow a mouse?" "Super slow?" Abby asked, ears flicking. Foofball's tail lashed. "Abby, just point your tail hard at something you want dead." "It works," once Abby nodded, flexing his tail, feeling the armor's strength. The cavern buzzed as the kittens trained. Group pounces practiced in tight formations, defensive tumbles with claws slashing at imaginary ravens, and leaps to mimic air attacks. Abby and Foofball oversaw, correcting stances, barking orders. Sunlight streamed in, making the armor sparkle, each kitten glowing with fierce pride. As dusk fell, the training paused, a sign to rest. The kittens stacked their gear in neat piles, then gathered in a circle. Those with Ash's claw necklaces stepped to the center, holding their claws together, their eyes glinting with purpose. Foofball joined, his massive claw dwarfing theirs, and looked to Abby, his gaze heavy. Abby swallowed a lump in his throat, stepping forward. He pressed his claw to the others, the cavern stone amplifying his voice as he yowled, "Tomorrow!" Tomorrow everyone goes home. Every mom, dad, sister, brother, every uncle you hide from. They all come home, or none of us do. The kittens roared, their cheers echoing like thunder, shaking the cavern's walls. Muffin yowled loudest, his helmet crooked as the army stood united, their armor gleaming, ready for the war ahead. Chapter 8. Betrayal and Preparation. Dawn broke over the cavern, its golden light filtering through cracks to dance on the kitten's armor. The air hummed with quiet purpose as the army stirred, some kittens kindling small fires in stone-lined corners, others darting into the forest to hunt. The scent of roasted mice and fresh dew filled the space, mingling with the metallic tang of armor. Kittens dragged their kills to a designated pile, far from the cooking fires, their movements somber yet focused. They strapped on gear, some packing extra armor into bundles for travel, their claws clicking softly. A tiny kitten with a claw necklace scampered to Abby, her eyes bright. "We decided some should be ready for attacks, but most need rest," she reported, tail high. Abby nodded, but his gaze caught on a chubby kitten struggling under 4 heavy packs, his round face strained. "Who's that?" Abby asked, his voice sharp. The kitten hesitated, then mewed. "That's Loaf, a house cat. No claws, kind of fat, scared to fight. But he wants to help, so he's carrying the warrior's packs and, well, he'll run if it gets bad." Abby's eyes softened as he watched Loaf, his belly low to the ground, waddling under the weight while warrior kitten strapped more gear onto him. Loaf's eyes shone with quiet determination, a spark of bravery beneath his fear. Abby purred softly. "He's got a warrior's heart," he murmured. The kittens filed out of the cavern, the morning sun warming their faces, glinting off their helmets. At the entrance, Abby froze. Cole sat defiantly on a rock, his black fur sleek, yellow eyes glinting with malice. 4 ravens perched on branches above, their beaks snapping, while empty wooden boxes lay scattered around, lids ajar. Hisses rippled through the kittens, their claws unsheathing. Abby locked eyes with Cole, the air crackling with tension. A tabby kitten, unable to resist, stepped forward and sat in a box, her tail twitching. A raven dove, slamming the lid shut with a caw. Another kitten followed, then another, their instincts betraying them as they curled into the boxes, watching Abby and Cole stare down. Ravens swooped, closing lids, trapping them inside. Foofball's roar shook the clearing. "Stop getting in the boxes!" But more kittens succumbed, their mews muffled as lids snapped shut. Abby's heart raced. His army was vanishing. With a yowl, he leaped, claws swiping as Cole dodged back, smirking. The four ravens dove at Abby in a flurry of wings, but Foofball sprang forward, his dragon armor glinting. His massive paws swatted two ravens to the ground, their bodies crumpling, while his jaws snapped a third, feathers spilling. Abby rolled onto his back, claws slashing upward, catching the final raven's throat. It fell, limp, as he shook feathers from his fur. Abby and Foofball turned, eyes locked on Cole. The black kitten's smirk vanished, his eyes wide with fear. He bolted, tail low, vanishing into the forest's shadows. The kittens swarmed the boxes, prying them open, only to be swatted by the freed kittens, who leaped out hissing. "Never again!" a white kitten yowled, shaking off splinters. Once all were free, the army moved into the forest, eyes scanning for more traps, their armor clinking softly. Abby padded beside Foofball, his voice low. "Cole betrayed us. How could he?" Foofball's eyes darkened, his dragon helmet casting a grim shadow. "He looked familiar, too familiar. Like my brother Abby's ears flicked. You think your brother had kits? That they work with the ravens too?" Foofball's tail lashed. "It would explain the betrayal. Makes this mission more dangerous." Abby's claws flexed, Ash's necklace heavy against his chest. "We're not stopping. I want my family back. Everyone does. And the ravens end here." The army reached a hillside at the forest's edge, the mountain's rocky face looming ahead. The raven cave gaped in the distance, its mouth guarded by a trio of birds, their eyes glinting. Kittens without armor began strapping it on, claws scraping stone as they prepared. Abby whispered, "Yeah, get ready, but rest. Stay hidden, no fires. We attack tonight." The kittens spread out, each finding a patch of sunlight, filtering through the trees to curl up in, their armor gleaming faintly. As Abby and Foofball settled to rest, a commotion erupted from the mountain. Abby parted some leaves, heart sinking. Muffin, his gray-orange fur a blur, was at the cave's mouth, swatting at the raven guards with wild yowls. "Muffin, no!" Abby hissed, about to call the attack, but Foofball's paw held him back. "No, Abby." He made his mess. "We attack now." We lose Abby's tail lashed, helplessness clawing at him as ravens poured from the cave, their caws echoing. Muffin darted off, two birds in pursuit, his yowls fading into the rocks. Abby sank down, guilt gnawing, but Foofball's gaze was firm. The mission comes first. As the sun dipped, casting long shadows, Abby curled up, the claw necklace cold against his fur. A soft tap woke him, Muffin grinning, a twig stuck in his whiskers. "Abby, I thought we were attacking the cave. Why we napping?" he whispered, tail flicking. Abby's heart leaped, a giggle escaping. "We attack later, Muffin." "Nap now. I'm glad you're okay." Muffin curled up beside him, muttering about mean birds, and Abby closed his eyes, the cave waiting in the dark, its shadows heavy with promise and peril. Chapter 9. The Final Battle. Moonlight spilled over the hillside, casting the kitten army in a silvery glow, their armor glinting like scattered stars. The forest's edge was silent save for the rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Abby paced, his tail twitching, Ash's claw necklace heavy against his chest. The kittens were restless, their pre-battle energy erupting in bursts of chaos. Loaf, the chubby house cat, waddled up a tree, his packs jingling, only to yowl and leap down, landing in a puff of dust. A tabby sprinted in frantic figure eights, dodging invisible foes, while two kittens swatted at each other, hissing, then darted apart, only to collide again with a tumble of fur. Abby muttered to Foofball, The Zoomies! It's time. Foofball's dragon helmet cast a menacing shadow, his spiked tail swaying. Now, warriors! Ready yourselves! He roared, his voice like thunder. The kitten snapped into a crouching line, butts wiggling, tails thrashing, eyes glowing with feral focus. The air hummed with suppressed hisses and the soft clink of armor, the scent of pine and anticipation sharp in the night. Abby let out a piercing yowl, and the army surged forward, a silent tsunami of fur and steel. The raven guards at the cave's mouth barely twitched before claws ripped through them, feathers scattering like black snow. Abby led, heart pounding, the thought of his family, his mother's purr, his father's grumble, fueling each step. Muffin tripped over a rock, yowled, and swatted the air, mistaking it for a raven. The kittens poured into the narrow, rocky hallway, armor scraping stone, their formation tight. A raven guard lunged upward to sound an alarm, but a spiked helmet kitten leaped, dragging it down with a screech, silencing it. The hallway opened into a vast cavern, torches casting jagged shadows across stalactites and raven nests perched high on craggy ledges. 2 ravens spotted them, their caws splitting the air as the flock awakened. The cavern erupted, kittens leaped skyward, claws slashing at rising ravens, armor clanking, feathers drifting like ash, hisses tangled with shrieking caws, the air thick with the scent of blood and dust. A group of kittens surrounded a raven, their coordinated strikes a blur, bringing it down in a flurry of claws. Another kitten cornered rolled onto its back, claws slashing upward, saved by Loaf's clumsy tackle, his bulk knocking the raven aside. Muffin batted a severed raven head across the floor like a jingle ball, grinning wildly. Abby, riding a raven's back, felt it collapse under his claws, then scanned the chaos for Cole and the Raven King. A dark tunnel gaped at the cavern's edge, its shadows flickering with torchlight. He yowled to Foofball, who spat out 2 limp ravens, his scales glinting, and bounded toward him. They burst into a smaller chamber, a yawning cliff-edge pit glowing faintly below. Cole stood on a jagged ledge, smirking, beside a hulking tabby with a scarred muzzle and a crown of raven feathers, the Raven King, Foofball's brother. His eyes glinted with malice, claws gleaming like daggers. Foofball's growl was low, pained, his dragon armor clanking as he circled his brother. "You betrayed us for treats," he rumbled. The Raven King sneered, his tail lashing. "And you clung to honor, brother. Look where it got you." Abby locked eyes with Cole, fury for his family's suffering boiling over. He charged, claws flashing, but Cole dodged, swiping back, sending Abby skidding, pebbles skittering into the pit's abyss. The chamber erupted into a whirlwind of claws and hisses. Abby ducked Cole's slash, then lunged at the Raven King, grabbing his swishing tail and scrambling up his back, teeth sinking into his ear. The traitor cat yowled, shaking Abby off, who hit the ground hard. Foofball lunged, his spiked tail whipping through the air, missing the Raven King and striking the wall with a shower of sparks. The Raven King pounced, pinning Foofball under massive paws. Cole cackled, "You're done, old fool." Abby staggered up, legs trembling, eyes blazing. He locked onto the Raven King, tail armor gleaming. "Point it hard," Foofball had said. Time slowed. Abby aimed his tail, muscles tensing, and the dart shot forward, a streak of silver in the torchlight, burying itself in the Raven King's chest. The traitor gasped, eyes wide, and collapsed, his feather crown tumbling into the pit. Foofball scrambled free, roaring in triumph. Cole froze, his father's body limp, then bolted for the tunnel, eyes wild. Abby cut him off, blocking the exit with a low hiss. "You'll never stop the ravens," Cole spat, crouching. Foofball slammed a massive paw down, pinning him to the stone, his dragon helmet looming. "It's over, nephew," he growled. Abby nodded, resolute, and Foofball's claws flashed, silencing Cole's hiss forever. The cavern outside echoed with kitten cheers, the last ravens defeated. Muffin bounded in, dragging a raven wing, grinning. Kittens, some limping, some triumphant, gathered, their armor dented but spirits high. Abby glanced at the shadows, catching a pair of glowing eyes, a black kitten, Cole's sister, staring with pure hatred before vanishing into the dark. A chill ran through him, but he turned to his army, yowling, "Our family's come home now!" The kittens roared, surging through the cave, freeing cats and kittens from crude cages woven of twigs and vines. Celebrations erupted. Mothers licked kittens. Siblings tackled each other in joyful heaps. Abby stood by the cliff's edge, staring at Cole's body. He nudged it closer, then pushed, watching it vanish into the pit's darkness. A soft mew made him turn. His family stood there, his mother's eyes soft, his father's tail high, his siblings bouncing. Abby leaped into their embrace, purring wildly, the cave alive with reunions. As the freed cats and kittens prepared to leave, Abby invited Foofball to the barn. "I'll join you later," Foofball rumbled. "But first, I must collect something from home." Abby noticed orphaned kittens, their eyes wide, following him. Turning to his parents, he yowled gleefully, "Any kitten with no family comes with us." A cheer of squeaky meows rang out, echoing through the cave as the army turned toward home. Chapter 10. A New Dawn. Dawn painted the barn in hues of gold and rose as Abby's army trudged home, their armor clinking softly, paws sinking into the dew-soaked grass. The forest's edge gave way to familiar fields, and the barn's weathered planks loomed ahead, a beacon of safety. Inside, chaos erupted. Mothers licked kittens clean, their tongues rasping like sandpaper, while fathers purred deep, rumbling songs of pride. Kittens tackled siblings in tumbling heaps, squealing with joy, and elders swatted playful paws, their eyes glinting with relief. The air thrummed with purrs and the warm scent of hay, mingling with the musk of reunited families. Everywhere, cats and kittens kneaded each other like dough, their claws flexing in rhythmic bliss, the barn alive with chaotic harmony. Abby stood at the edge, exhausted, his black and white fur streaked with dirt. His yellow eyes softened as he watched the reunions. Muffin curled up with his family, his gray-orange tail flicking as he batted a sibling's ear. Loaf, still waddling under his packs, proudly showed them to a littermate who sniffed them with awe. Abby's chest ached with the memory of Ash, his claw necklace heavy against his fur. The barn's warmth felt incomplete without him. A hush fell over the crowd. Foofball entered, his dragon armor gleaming, its greenish scales catching the dawn's light. In his jaws, he carried a golden crown, its jewels sparkling, the same crown Abby had glimpsed in the cavern. The kittens parted, their eyes wide, as the old warrior's heavy steps echoed on the wooden floor. He stopped before Abby, setting the crown down gently, his scarred face solemn. "Come," he rumbled, motioning with a massive paw. The kittens gathered, their murmurs rising into a chant. Abby's name, echoing like a heartbeat. Foofball lifted the crown, its weight steady in his claws, and placed it on Abby's head. "Kitten King," he declared, his voice booming. "You led them to victory, honored the brave, and brought them home." Abby's ears twitched under the crown's weight, his heart swelling. He stepped onto a hay bale, the barn falling silent. "I'll protect you all," he mewed, his voice steady but eyes glistening. "No raven will harm us again." The sunlight streamed through the barn's seams, catching Ash's claw necklace and those of the others, making them glow like tiny flames. The barn erupted in purrs and zoomies, kittens darting in joyful chaos, leaping over bales, chasing tails. Abby perched on his hay bale, the crown a warm weight, and gazed at the horizon. The field stretched wide, the mountain a distant shadow, promising peace, at least for now. He chose hope, his tail curling with quiet resolve. A gray feather drifted from the rafters, landing at his paws. Abby's fur prickled as he looked up. The owl perched high, its amber eyes unblinking, a silent sentinel. It tilted its head, dropping another feather, then spread its wings and glided out through a gap in the roof, vanishing into the dawn. Abby clutched Ash's claw, the barn's warmth wrapping around him, but the owl's gaze lingered in his mind, a reminder that the sky held secrets and some battles might yet come.
I hope you enjoyed that fantasy adventure with Claws of Courage, The Kitten War. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe for more stories from the Story Forge Haven.